People like you need to remember their place. This isn't some diversity charity. You're here to follow orders, not give them. The open plan office falls silent as Trevor Matthews' voice cuts through the air like a whip. Every head turns toward the sound, then, quickly away, eyes downcast, bodies stiff with uncomfortable recognition of what's happening. Trevor, 54 and perpetually dressed in designer suits that emphasize his executive position, stands over Nicholas Turner's desk, his face flushed with anger. Nicholas remains perfectly still, the public humiliation burning across his face as colleagues pretend to focus on their screens. His hands rest flat on his proposal document, the one Trevor now taps with a dismissive finger. Did you honestly think the executive team wants to hear suggestions from someone who's barely been here 2 weeks? Trevor's voice drips with contempt. Your Harvard degree. We all know how you people get those these days. Affirmative action handouts. A few gasps punctuate the silence. Nicholas's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. You're nothing but a quota checkbox with an attitude problem, Trevor continues, leaning closer. Do I make myself clear, or should I use smaller words? Nicholas straightens his tie, his eyes never leaving Trevor's. Crystal clear. I know exactly what my place is. What Nicholas knows that Trevor doesn't will shatter his entire world. 2 weeks earlier, Nicholas Turner arrives at Westfield Industries headquarters with purposeful steps. At 32, he carries himself with quiet confidence, 2 advanced degrees and a stellar career trajectory evident in his bearing, if not explicitly stated. His tailored navy suit fits perfectly, and the leather portfolio under his arm contains meticulous notes about the company's current marketing strategies. He's prepared, he's qualified, and he's about to begin a mission only 2 people in the building know about. The HR director, Elaine Peterson, greets him with a warm handshake. Welcome to Westfield, Mr. Turner. We're thrilled to have someone of your caliber joining the marketing team. Her smile is genuine, her eyes knowing. She's one of the 2 people aware of Nicholas's true identity. Thank you for the opportunity, Nicholas responds. I'm looking forward to contributing to the team. What she knows, what only she and CEO Richard Westfield know, is that Nicholas Turner is actually Nicholas Westfield Turner, the CEO's son. His application, interview process, and hiring have been conducted under strict confidentiality. His connection to the CEO deliberately omitted from all paperwork. Nicholas could have walked straight into an executive position. Instead, he chose this path to experience the company from the ground up, to test the culture his father has been hearing troubling reports about. It's an assessment no consulting firm could provide with the same authenticity. Elaine escorts Nicholas to the marketing department, where Trevor Matthews waits with visible impatience. This is your new senior strategist, Elaine introduces, Nicholas Turner. Trevor barely glances at the resume Elaine hands him. His eyes flick over Nicholas, lingering just a moment too long on his face. Marketing is on the 3rd floor, Trevor says with a slight frown. Are you sure you're in the right department? Nicholas has an MBA from Harvard and a master's in communication. His credentials are exceptional, Elaine interjects, her tone professional but firm. Trevor's expression shifts to something less overt but no less dismissive. Right. Well, we'll find something for him to do. Throughout the day, the pattern becomes clear. Nicholas is assigned a desk in the far corner, away from the team, despite several empty workstations near the collaborative space. When introduced to colleagues, Trevor emphasizes that Nicholas is new and will be starting with basic tasks, despite his senior strategist title. The contrast becomes stark when another new hire arrives that afternoon. Bradley Wilson, white, male, with less experience than Nicholas. Trevor personally gives Bradley an office tour, introduces him warmly to everyone as our new creative force, and immediately includes him in an upcoming project discussion. That evening, Nicholas sits in his apartment, meticulously documenting the day's interactions in a private journal. His phone rings. Nicholas, how was your first day? Richard Westfield's voice carries the weight of both CEO and concerned father. I'm in, Nicholas replies simply, and you were right to be concerned. Trevor has no idea the diversity hire he's dismissing is actually heir to the entire company. Over the next week, Nicholas establishes himself as both competent and congenial, despite Trevor's limitations on his role. He completes assigned basic tasks with exceptional speed and precision, then quietly assists struggling teammates. His analytical insights prove valuable even in casual conversations, and several colleagues begin seeking his input unofficially. The team's growing respect for Nicholas is evident in everything except their official interactions, where Trevor's authority still dictates the hierarchy. No one challenges this established order. Wednesday morning's weekly strategy meeting changes that dynamic. The marketing team gathers in the glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. Trevor stands at the head of the table, projecting slides of a new campaign for Westfield's flagship product line. As you can see, we're positioning for the luxury demographic with this approach, Trevor explains, gesturing to a mock-up that features celebrities and exclusive venues. The aspirational angle has always worked for us. Nicholas studies the presentation, noting several critical flaws in the strategy. The room grows uncomfortable as Trevor's explanation contradicts recent market research. Several colleagues shift in their seats, eyes darting to each other, but no one speaks. Nicholas raises his hand. When Trevor reluctantly acknowledges him, Nicholas speaks in a measured, respectful tone. The research from last quarter suggests luxury positioning is actually alienating our core demographic, Nicholas says. The data shows our most loyal customers value innovation and reliability over status. We might be creating an unnecessary barrier with this approach. Trevor's face flushes slightly. That's an interesting perspective from someone who's barely unpacked his desk. I've reviewed all the company's market research for the past 3 years, Nicholas responds evenly. The numbers consistently show, maybe at your previous to smaller companies, that approach worked, Trevor interrupts, his emphasis making it clear what he thinks of Nicholas's prior experience. But here at Westfield, we operate at a different level. The tension in the room thickens. Nicholas remains composed as he pulls up market data on his tablet and places it on the table. With respect, the data doesn't support the luxury positioning. Our strongest growth segment is actually middle-income professionals who choose our products for functionality. We're risking millions on a campaign that targets the wrong audience. Trevor's knuckles whiten around his marker. I don't need a lecture from someone I hired to handle basic analytics. Know your role here. After the meeting, Aisha Johnson, the team's research analyst, approaches Nicholas in the break room.
That was brave,
she says quietly, glancing around to ensure they're alone.
Just be careful. Trevor's been here 20 years. He's friends with the board. He does this to anyone he sees as a threat, especially...
She doesn't finish the sentence. Nicholas nods, understanding.
Thanks for the warning, but I've dealt with people like Trevor before.
That evening, Nicholas composes a carefully worded email to Trevor, requesting to lead a small project based on his alternative strategy. The email is professional, data-driven, and respectful. He copies the entire team. The response Nicholas receives tomorrow will ignite a conflict neither man can walk away from. The marketing department buzzes with quiet energy the following morning. Nicholas's email sits in everyone's inbox, a professional request backed by impressive analytics that can't be easily dismissed. Several team members shoot Nicholas subtle nods of approval as he settles at his desk. At precisely 9:17 a.m., Trevor emerges from his office. His face betrays nothing as he walks directly to Nicholas's desk. My office, now. The words fall like stones. Nicholas follows Trevor into the glass-encased office. Trevor closes the door and pulls the blinds, an unusual move that draws curious glances from the team outside. Trevor doesn't sit. Instead, he stands behind his desk, using the height difference to establish dominance as Nicholas takes the visitor's chair. This, Trevor slaps a printed copy of Nicholas's email on the desk, is completely inappropriate. Nicholas maintains neutral eye contact.
I believe my suggestion has merit based on the data. This isn't about data, Trevor snaps. This is about chain of command. You don't get to decide your projects. You don't get to copy the entire team on communications that should be private. You don't get to undermine my authority. That wasn't my intention, Nicholas responds calmly.
I simply thought, your qualifications? Trevor interrupts, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Let's talk about those. Harvard, right? Tell me, how exactly did you get in? Special programs? Scholarships for certain demographics? The implication hangs in the air between them. Nicholas stiffens but maintains his composure. I graduated top of my class. And yet you don't understand basic professional hierarchy. Trevor leans forward, palms flat on his desk. Let me be clear. You are here on probation. I need people who follow direction, not challenge authority. Trevor pulls a folder from his desk drawer and removes a printed assignment sheet. Since you need clarification on your role, I've prepared this for you. Nicholas scans the document. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly as he reads his new assignments, reorganizing the supply closet, updating the office coffee schedule, cataloging old marketing materials from storage. These are intern tasks, Nicholas states, his voice level despite the obvious demotion. These are team support tasks, Trevor counters with a thin smile. Everyone contributes to the efficient operation of this department. Consider it an opportunity to demonstrate your adaptability. Nicholas stands, taking the assignment sheet. Will there be anything else? Yes, I expect this completed by end of day. Trevor's smile doesn't reach his eyes. And Nicholas? Next time you have a concern with my management, bring it to me privately. Not everyone appreciates your direct approach. Later, in the break room, Nicholas stands by the coffee machine, carefully updating the schedule as assigned. Through the open door, he clearly hears Trevor speaking to another manager in the hallway. Had to put him in his place, Trevor says, not bothering to lower his voice. These entitlement attitudes are getting out of hand. They think just because they check a diversity box, they can skip the ladder. Tough position, the other manager responds. HR's always pushing these initiatives without considering team dynamics. Nicholas continues writing, his expression revealing nothing. Aisha appears beside him, her voice low. This is ridiculous. Let me help you with the storage room at least. Thank you, but no, Nicholas replies. Some battles you fight differently. That evening, Nicholas sits in his apartment, phone to his ear. Dad, I need access to the company's HR complaint history. This goes deeper than we thought. Richard Westfield's concerned face appears on the video call from his penthouse office. You should just let me end this experiment. I can transfer you to executive offices tomorrow. No, Nicholas responds firmly. That's not how real change happens. Trust me. I need 2 more weeks. Trevor's personnel file reveals a pattern that will transform Nicholas's strategy from personal vindication to systemic reform. Nicholas spends his evening reviewing Trevor's personnel history, obtained through his father's executive access. The digital files tell a disturbing story. 6 discrimination complaints over 15 years, all from employees of color or women who subsequently left the company. Each complaint shows the same pattern: initial documentation, perfunctory investigation, and eventual dismissal for insufficient evidence or misunderstanding of management style. The morning team meeting arrives with Nicholas prepared. He sits quietly as Trevor outlines the week's priorities, taking notes with practiced professionalism, despite having spent the night completing the demeaning tasks assigned to him. When Trevor opens the floor for input, Nicholas presents a comprehensive analysis of their struggling product line's market position. His approach blends current industry trends with Westfield's established strengths, identifying a clear opportunity their competitors have missed. His presentation is concise, data-driven, and compelling. The team responds with visible interest. Several colleagues nod appreciatively, and Aisha immediately begins asking insightful follow-up questions that strengthen the concept further. Trevor watches with thinning lips. That's an interesting academic exercise, he says when Nicholas finishes.
Unfortunately, we need practical solutions, not theoretical models. I've included implementation steps and projected ROI on page 3, Nicholas responds, maintaining his professional tone. The approach is based on successful campaigns from Johnson & Williams last quarter. Trevor dismisses the team without addressing Nicholas's proposal further. We'll stick with our established strategy for now. Bradley, I'd like you to refine the luxury positioning we discussed yesterday. 2 hours later, Nicholas is organizing old brochures in the storage room when his phone buzzes with multiple messages from team members. Victor Menendez from Accounts has texted, "VP of Sales just arrived. Trevor presenting new strategy. You should see this." Nicholas returns to find Preston Williams, VP of Sales, enthusiastically reviewing presentation slides in the main conference room. As Nicholas quietly enters, he recognizes his own strategy being presented verbatim, but with Trevor standing proudly at the helm. This pivot from luxury positioning to innovation-focused messaging is exactly what we need, Preston says, examining the data Nicholas compiled. The customer segment analysis here is impressive. Who developed this? Trevor straightens slightly. It was my team's effort, but I guided the approach based on my experience with similar markets. Preston nods approvingly. Excellent work, Trevor. Let's fast-track this. I want implementation plans by Friday. After the VP leaves, Nicholas approaches Trevor privately in the hallway. That was my strategy you presented. Trevor scoffs, glancing around to ensure they're alone. Prove it. Your word against mine. His smirk shows complete confidence in his position. You should be grateful I found a use for your suggestion. Consider it a lesson in how things really work here. Nicholas's eyes narrow slightly. So the lesson is that stealing others' work is acceptable? Trevor's voice hardens. The lesson is knowing your place in the food chain. I decide what ideas go upstairs. You're still learning how things work in the real corporate world. Nicholas returns to his desk, opening a document titled Westfield Cultural Assessment, Marketing Department. He updates it methodically, noting the time, date, and exact dialogue of the interaction. The case Nicholas builds with each documented incident will soon become Trevor's professional death warrant. The following week brings increasingly blatant marginalization. Trevor removes Nicholas from the email chains for 2 client meetings. Important updates go to every team member except him. His desk is relocated during lunch, moved from the main area to a corner near the supply closet for space optimization. Nicholas adapts with quiet dignity. He arrives early each morning to review company communications he officially shouldn't have access to. He completes his assigned menial tasks efficiently, then produces exceptional strategic work that he carefully documents before submitting. The pattern becomes predictable. Nicholas creates comprehensive analyses that disappear into Trevor's office, only to emerge later as Trevor's own insights. Team members notice but remain silent, their careers held hostage by the same system. On Wednesday, Nicholas completes a detailed presentation for Apex Technologies, Westfield's largest potential client. The deck synthesizes months of market research into a compelling pitch tailored specifically to Apex's business model. Nicholas forwards it to Trevor as required, knowing what will follow. The next morning, Trevor calls a pre-meeting briefing. Bradley will be presenting to Apex today, he announces, handing out updated presentation materials. I've made some adjustments to strengthen our approach. Nicholas accepts the revised deck. His name has been removed completely. Bradley Wilson is now listed as the strategic lead. The content remains unchanged. Nicholas's work presented as someone else's. The Apex executives arrive at 11. Nicholas isn't invited to the meeting but positions himself near the conference room door, ostensibly organizing marketing materials on a nearby shelf. Through the glass, he watches the presentation unfold. The Apex CEO leans forward with interest as Bradley presents Nicholas's strategy. Questions follow, some technical and specific. Bradley stumbles, looking repeatedly to Trevor for help with concepts he didn't develop. The Apex CTO finally asks directly, This consumer journey mapping is exceptional. Who specifically developed this approach? We'd like to work with them directly on implementation. Trevor smoothly steps forward. Our team develops all strategies collaboratively, but I personally oversaw this particular framework based on my experience with similar markets. The lie flows effortlessly. Nicholas continues organizing materials, his expression neutral as he commits the moment to memory. After the successful meeting, the team celebrates in the break room. Nicholas approaches Bradley privately as others chat with Trevor across the room. "You knew that was my work," Nicholas says quietly. Bradley looks down at his coffee, shame evident in his posture. "I'm sorry. Trevor told me to take credit. He said if I didn't..." He trails off. "He threatened your position?" Nicholas asks. Bradley nods slightly. "He does this to everyone, but especially to people like..." He hesitates. "People like me," Nicholas finishes. That evening, Nicholas paces his apartment, phone pressed to his ear. "I need complete access to the company server," he tells his father. "There's a pattern of evidence I need to secure before it disappears." Richard sounds increasingly worried. "This has gone far enough. I'm coming to the office tomorrow." "No," Nicholas insists. "Not yet. Trust me, Dad. This isn't just about Trevor anymore. The problem is systemic." He ends the call and opens his laptop to a folder labeled Westfield Reform. Inside are dozens of documented incidents, testimonials from former employees he's tracked down, and a detailed analysis of promotion patterns across departments showing clear discrimination trends. Tomorrow's company-wide meeting will push Trevor to commit career suicide in front of the perfect witnesses. The quarterly review meeting brings unusual tension to Westfield Industries. Rumors circulate that Richard Westfield himself will attend a rare occurrence that has the executive team straightening ties and rehearsing presentations in hallways. Nicholas arrives early, dressed in his finest suit. The contrast between his professional appearance and the menial tasks Trevor has assigned him isn't lost on his colleagues. Several offer sympathetic glances as Nicholas sets up the conference room technology. Trevor enters with nervous energy, checking his reflection in the glass wall before approaching Nicholas. "Where's the executive coffee service?" he demands, voice tight. "I specifically told you to handle refreshments for today." Nicholas turns from the projection setup. "I prepared the presentation materials as you requested, but refreshments weren't on my assignment list." "Don't be obtuse," Trevor hisses. "I told you yesterday to handle refreshments." "You asked me to update the slides with the new projections," Nicholas corrects calmly, "which I completed last night." Trevor's face darkens. "Your role is whatever I say it is. Get the coffee service set up now before executives arrive." Instead, Nicholas takes a seat at the table, meeting portfolio open before him. "I'm a senior strategist, Mr. Matthews. That's my role according to HR and my contract. I've prepared for this meeting accordingly." Trevor's retort is interrupted as executives begin entering. The CEO's chair remains conspicuously empty as the CFO calls the meeting to order. Department heads present their quarterly results in turn. When marketing's slot arrives, Trevor showcases impressive strategies and performance metrics, all based on Nicholas's work. His confidence grows as he speaks, occasionally glancing at Nicholas with subtle triumph. The CFO interrupts with pointed questions about customer acquisition costs. Trevor falters, shuffling through his notes for data he doesn't fully understand. Nicholas raises his hand. When acknowledged by the CFO, he provides precise answers, explaining the methodology behind the calculations and offering additional context that impresses the executive team. Trevor attempts to reclaim control. "As I was explaining before the interruption..." "Actually," the CFO interjects, "I'd like to hear more about these segmentation strategies. Nicholas, since you seem familiar with the data, could you elaborate?" Nicholas delivers a concise explanation that resolves the CFO's concerns. The other executives nod with approval. After the meeting, Trevor corners Nicholas in an empty conference room, closing the door with controlled force. "You humiliated me in front of the executive team," he says, voice vibrating with anger. Nicholas remains composed. "I answered questions about my own work." "Your work?" Trevor's volume rises. "Nothing here is your work. You exist in this company because I allow it." Nicholas maintains steady eye contact. "I've contributed significant value to this department, Mr. Matthews. The numbers speak for themselves." "Numbers?" Trevor laughs bitterly. "You think executives care about your numbers? This company runs on relationships you don't have and never will." Nicholas notices movement outside the glass walls. Several employees have paused, attention drawn by Trevor's increasing volume. Trevor, focused on his target, doesn't notice. "You need to know your place," Trevor continues, jabbing a finger toward Nicholas. "And what exactly is my place, Mr. Matthews?" Nicholas asks quietly. Trevor explodes. "Your place is to shut up, be grateful we hired you at all, and do what you're told. You think your fancy degrees change anything? You're here to fill a quota, nothing more." The gathered audience outside grows. Among them, Nicholas recognizes the HR director and the company's legal counsel. They exchange troubled glances as Trevor continues his tirade. Nicholas calmly collects his notes. "Thank you for making your perspective so clear." Trevor's public outburst has just sealed his fate in the most perfect way possible. Nicholas arrives at 7:15 the next morning, a full hour before standard office hours. He wears his most impressive suit charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, paired with a deep blue tie that brings out the intensity in his eyes. He moves with purpose, making several calls from his desk in the empty office. By 8:30, team members begin filtering in. They cast curious glances at Nicholas, word of yesterday's confrontation having spread throughout the company. Many offer subtle nods of solidarity while carefully avoiding Trevor's office door. At precisely 9:00, Trevor strides in. His face still carries yesterday's anger, now hardened into cold determination. He marches directly to Nicholas's desk and slaps down a formal document. "Sign this," he demands without preamble. "It details your insubordination and poor attitude. Consider it your first and final warning." Nicholas reads the letter carefully. It describes a fictitious pattern of disrespect, missed deadlines, and unprofessional behavior, a complete inversion of reality. "This isn't accurate," Nicholas states simply. Trevor leans closer. "Sign it or clean out your desk." "I think we should discuss this with HR present," Nicholas suggests, his voice measured. Trevor's laugh holds no humor. "HR works for the company, not for you. Sign it." Nicholas stands slowly, straightening to his full height. "You're right. HR does work for the company, and so do I." His voice shifts subtly, gaining an authority previously kept hidden. "But the question is, who exactly is the company?" Confusion flickers across Trevor's face as Nicholas walks past him toward the department's central area. Raising his voice slightly, Nicholas addresses the room. "Attention, everyone. I have an announcement." The team gathers, curious and wary. Trevor attempts to intervene, but Nicholas continues with such natural authority that Trevor's words die in his throat. "For the past month, I've been conducting a cultural assessment of Westfield Industries at the request of the CEO," Nicholas begins, his tone shifting from subordinate to executive. "My name is Nicholas Westfield Turner. Richard Westfield is my father." The revelation lands like a thunderclap. Gasps and wide eyes sweep the room. Trevor's face drains of color so rapidly he seems to age a decade in seconds. "I was placed in this department without special treatment to experience our company culture firsthand," Nicholas continues. "What I've found is both encouraging and deeply troubling." He walks toward the team, acknowledging individual members. "Most of you have shown remarkable professionalism, creativity, and integrity despite challenging circumstances. Aisha, your research methodology is impeccable. Victor, your financial analyses have saved this company millions. Bradley," he pauses, meeting the young man's anxious gaze,
You have genuine talent when you're allowed to use it. Nicholas's tone shifts. Unfortunately, I've also documented systematic discrimination, idea theft, and abusive management practices. With practiced calm, he connects his tablet to the conference room display. The screen fills with email threads, performance reviews, and complaint records, all highlighting Trevor's pattern of discrimination and abuse. This behavior violates not just our company values, but federal employment law, Nicholas states. And it ends today. Trevor finds his voice, though it wavers. This is ridiculous. You can't just waltz in undercover and... Actually, Nicholas interrupts smoothly, as principal shareholder and designated executive assessor, I can. The board approved this evaluation 6 months ago after receiving troubling reports about our company culture. As if on cue, the department doors open. Richard Westfield enters, flanked by Elaine Peterson from HR and a woman in a crisp suit carrying a legal portfolio. Richard approaches, his presence commanding immediate respect. Trevor Matthews, you're suspended pending investigation. Please surrender your company access and come with HR. Trevor looks wildly around the room, seeking allies and finding none. You can't. I've been loyal for 20 years. This is entrapment. No, Nicholas says quietly. It's accountability. Everything you've done was of your own choice without coercion. You showed us exactly who you are. Trevor's face contorts with rage and disbelief as he turns to Richard. This was a setup. He provoked me deliberately. Did he provoke you to steal his work? Richard asks coldly. Did he provoke you to discriminate against employees for years? Did he force you to create a hostile work environment? Security personnel appear at the door. Trevor's shoulders slump as the reality of his situation becomes inescapable. As they escort Trevor out, Nicholas addresses the stunned team. Change begins today. I'll be working directly with all of you to rebuild this department based on merit, respect, and inclusion. The team erupts in spontaneous applause, tentative at first, then building to genuine enthusiasm. Years of accumulated fear and frustration release in the cathartic moment. Nicholas makes eye contact with Aisha, who mouths a silent thank you across the room. The exposure of Trevor's behavior is just the first domino in a company-wide reckoning. The fallout from Trevor's removal ripples through Westfield Industries with unprecedented speed. Nicholas temporarily relocates to an office adjacent to the marketing department rather than immediately claiming Trevor's space, a symbolic gesture not lost on the team. He makes a point of returning to the main floor regularly, maintaining the connections he built during his undercover work. 3 days after Trevor's departure, the board of directors convenes for an emergency session. The atmosphere in the wood-paneled boardroom is tense as 12 executives sit around the massive table, eyes fixed on Richard and Nicholas Westfield. This investigation was conducted without board approval. Harrison Blackwell, the longest-serving member, protests. We have protocols for addressing personnel issues. Nicholas slides folders to each board member. These are the same protocols that buried 6 discrimination complaints against Trevor Matthews over 15 years. He responds calmly. The same protocols that saw 14 qualified employees of color or women leave the company after being passed over for promotions they deserved. One problematic manager doesn't indicate a systemic issue, argues Victoria Reeves, CFO. Trevor's behavior, while concerning, appears to be an isolated incident. Nicholas taps his tablet and the wall screen fills with meticulously organized data. Respectfully, the evidence suggests otherwise. He walks them through promotion statistics, complaint patterns, and exit interview data across departments. This isn't about one manager. It's about a culture that enabled him and others like him. Several board members shift uncomfortably as their department's metrics appear on screen. The patterns are undeniable consistent biases in hiring, promotion, and resource allocation throughout the company. What exactly are you proposing? Asks Lawrence Chen, the youngest board member. A complete cultural audit and reform, Nicholas answers. Transparent reporting structures, anonymous feedback channels,
and accountability at every level, including this boardroom. The debate continues for hours. Eventually, faced with both moral and legal exposure, the board reluctantly authorizes a company-wide investigation. Across town, Trevor Matthews sits in his attorney's office, rage barely contained beneath his practiced corporate veneer. "This is textbook wrongful termination," insists James Harrington, his lawyer. "They created a hostile situation deliberately to force a reaction. We have grounds for a substantial lawsuit." "I want damages," Trevor seethes. "I built that department. 20 years of my life dedicated to Westfield, and they send security to escort me out like a criminal." "We'll file immediately," Harrington assures him. "Your reputation alone should be worth millions in damages." Their confidence evaporates the following week when Westfield's legal team responds with a devastating counteroffensive. The company delivers 3 boxes of documented evidence. Emails where Trevor explicitly blocked qualified minorities from promotion. Testimonies from former employees who left due to his discrimination. Performance reviews where nearly identical work received dramatically different ratings based on the employee's race or gender. Most damaging is an email Trevor sent to a fellow director 3 years earlier. "Between us, I'm holding off on Sarah's promotion again. She's qualified. But do we really want another woman in executive meetings? They change the dynamic, and not in a good way. Let's find a reason to delay until Jenkins is ready." Harrington reviews the evidence with growing dismay. "They've been building this case for years." "That's impossible," Trevor protests. "This is about that undercover stunt Nicholas pulled." "No," Harrington says grimly. "His investigation just uncovered what was already there. They have documentation dating back a decade." He closes the file. "You need to consider a settlement. Taking this to court would be suicide." Trevor refuses to concede. That night, he attempts to access the Westfield servers remotely using his old credentials. The system logs the attempt instantly, adding another violation to his growing file. 2 days later, he calls a former subordinate, leaving a voicemail that borders on threatening, demanding they speak in his defense. The employee immediately forwards the message to HR. Meanwhile, Nicholas implements immediate changes in the marketing department. He establishes blind review processes for all creative work, removing names before evaluation. Meeting minutes are recorded and distributed to ensure proper attribution of ideas. Every team member receives equal opportunity to lead projects based on their expertise, rather than seniority or personal relationships. "We're not just fixing one department," Nicholas explains during a team meeting. "We're creating a model that will be implemented company-wide." The transformation isn't without challenges. Some longtime employees resist the new transparency, comfortable with the old hierarchies. Others worry about maintaining productivity during the transition. Nicholas addresses each concern directly, demonstrating that merit-based systems ultimately produce better results. 3 weeks into the reform, a young graphic designer approaches Nicholas as he reviews campaign materials. "I need to tell you something," she says hesitantly. "If I had known who you were, I would have said something about how Trevor treated people, especially Aisha and Victor." Nicholas sets aside the materials to give her his full attention. "That's exactly why I couldn't tell anyone. Real change doesn't come from fear of authority. It comes from choosing to do right when you think no one important is watching." The designer nods slowly. "I'll remember that." Across the industry, news of Westfield's internal investigation spreads through professional networks. Initial stock volatility stabilizes as market analysts recognize the long-term benefits of the company's transparency. 2 competing corporations quietly launch their own cultural assessments, fearing similar issues might be exposed within their ranks. By the 6-week mark, Nicholas has interviewed every member of the marketing team individually, identifying both problems and opportunities previously hidden by Trevor's management style. Talented individuals who had been marginalized now lead key initiatives. Collaborative sessions generate stronger ideas than the previous top-down approach. Richard joins Nicholas for lunch in the company cafeteria, a location deliberately chosen for its visibility. The board's still nervous, Richard admits. Cultural change makes people uncomfortable. Necessary change often does, Nicholas responds. But the numbers are already improving. Team productivity is up 12%. Absenteeism is down. 2 former employees have asked to return. Richard studies his son with pride. You could have just taken over, made yourself director and issued new policies. Then we'd just be replacing one authority figure with another, Nicholas explains. The system itself would remain broken. Real change requires exposing the root problems so everyone understands why reform matters. As they finish lunch, employees throughout the cafeteria notice something remarkable. The CEO and his son clearing their own trays, thanking the kitchen staff by name. Small gestures that signal the cultural shift has reached the highest levels. Trevor's final hearing approaches, carrying consequences that will extend far beyond one man's career. The disciplinary hearing convenes on a rainy Tuesday morning in Westfield's executive boardroom. The space has been arranged like a courtroom, a long table where board members sit as de facto judges, smaller tables for the opposing parties, and chairs along the perimeter for witnesses and observers. Trevor arrives precisely on time, accompanied by James Harrington and a junior attorney carrying multiple binders of documentation. Despite the circumstances, Trevor projects confidence in an expensive new suit, his handshake firm as he greets former colleagues with practiced cordiality. Nicholas sits at the opposite table with the company's legal counsel, his posture relaxed yet alert. Richard takes his place at the center of the board table, but recuses himself from voting due to personal involvement, designating the CFO as acting chair for the proceedings. This hearing will determine whether Trevor Matthews' termination for cause is justified based on evidence of workplace discrimination, idea theft, and creation of a hostile work environment, the CFO announces, opening the session. Mr. Harrington, you may present your client's defense. Trevor's attorney rises, buttoning his jacket with theatrical precision. Members of the board, what we have here is nothing less than an elaborate entrapment scheme designed to remove a loyal 20-year veteran of this company. His voice rises with practiced indignation. Mr. Turner deliberately concealed his identity, provoked responses, and manufactured situations to build a false narrative against my client. Nicholas remains impassive as Harrington continues. Furthermore, this entire investigation was conducted without proper oversight or transparency. Mr. Matthews had no opportunity to address concerns before being publicly humiliated and escorted from the premises. The board listens attentively, several members nodding at points that align with corporate tradition. When Harrington concludes, Nicholas's attorney presents the company's evidence, methodically emails, performance reviews, witness statements, and statistical analyses of Trevor's promotion decisions, showing clear discriminatory patterns. Mr. Matthews was never asked to discriminate, steal ideas, or abuse his authority, she emphasizes. He chose those actions freely, consistently, over many years. Mr. Turner's presence simply documented what was already occurring. Trevor requests permission to speak directly to the board. When granted, he stands, smoothing his tie with practiced precision. I've dedicated 20 years of my life to Westfield Industries, he begins, his voice modulated to convey sincerity. Have I been demanding? Yes. Our industry requires excellence. Have I maintained high standards? Absolutely. He paces slightly, establishing command of the space. What's being characterized as discrimination was simply meritocracy. The best ideas and the hardest workers were rewarded, regardless of background. Trevor portrays himself as an old-school manager navigating increasingly sensitive workplace politics. Frankly, what some call abuse used to be called leadership. Not everyone responds well to direct feedback. That doesn't make it discrimination. He turns toward Nicholas. As for Mr. Turner's allegations, consider his methods. He arrived with an agenda, deliberately provoked confrontations, and recorded private conversations without consent. Is that the behavior of someone seeking truth or someone manufacturing evidence? Several board members exchange thoughtful glances. For a moment, the room's energy shifts in Trevor's favor. Nicholas doesn't argue or interrupt. Instead, when Trevor finishes, he connects his tablet to the room's display system. "Actions speak louder than words," Nicholas says simply. "I'd like to show you what Mr. Matthews' leadership looked like in practice." The screen fills with video testimonials from former employees who left because of Trevor's discrimination. A black woman describes being passed over for promotion 7 times despite consistently outperforming colleagues who advanced. An Indian engineer explains how Trevor reassigned his successful project to a less qualified white colleague days before an executive presentation. A young Latino marketing specialist recounts being told his accent was too distracting for client meetings. Their stories form a damning pattern spanning years. Trevor's expression hardens as he recognizes former subordinates he believed would never speak against him. The final evidence proves most devastating. An email Trevor sent to a department manager 3 years earlier regarding a potential promotion. "Between us, I'd hold off on advancing Larissa despite her numbers. She's got the skills but wouldn't fit our executive image. Find someone more traditional. You know what I mean." Trevor's attorney attempts damage control, offering to negotiate a resignation agreement with a mutual non-disclosure provision. Nicholas rises slowly. No more silence. No more NDAs hiding discrimination. He turns directly to Trevor. "You told me to know my place. Now it's time you learned yours." The board votes with minimal deliberation. Termination with cause, forfeiture of all unvested stock options and retirement packages, and full cooperation with any employees pursuing civil cases. As security waits to escort him from the building for the final time, Trevor approaches Nicholas, his voice low and bitter. "You had every advantage, the Westfield name, connections, wealth. You set me up to fail." Nicholas meets his gaze steadily. "No, Trevor. You set yourself up to fail the moment you decided some people deserve less dignity than others." Trevor exits the Westfield building for the last time, his 20-year career ending in disgrace. Outside, rain washes away the last vestiges of his corporate power. Trevor's downfall becomes the catalyst for change reaching far beyond one company's walls. 6 months transform Westfield Industries. The marketing department, once Trevor's fiefdom, now serves as the company's innovation hub under Nicholas's leadership as Chief Culture Officer, a position created alongside his continued role in marketing strategy. The physical space reflects the philosophical shift. Gone are the isolated offices that previously separated management from staff. The floor now features collaborative spaces with glass-walled meeting rooms, ensuring transparency in both literal and figurative senses. Employee achievements plaster the walls, each credited specifically to their creators, regardless of title or tenure. More significant than physical changes are the systemic reforms implemented throughout the company. Anonymous reporting systems now operate through third-party oversight, eliminating the previous pattern of buried complaints. Every allegation receives thorough investigation with published results, names redacted but outcomes transparent. Promotion and project assignment processes undergo blind review work, evaluated without names or identifying characteristics until final stages. The resulting diversity in leadership positions occurs naturally through merit rather than mandated quotas. Regular culture audits occur quarterly, with results shared company-wide and specific accountability metrics tied to executive compensation. Teams exceeding inclusion benchmarks while maintaining performance standards receive innovation budgets previously unavailable to them. Mandatory inclusive leadership training begins at onboarding and continues throughout every employee's career. Unlike previous superficial diversity initiatives,
These programs focus on practical scenarios and measurable outcomes, rather than theoretical compliance. Exit interviews conducted by independent consultants provide unfiltered feedback that shapes ongoing reforms. Several former employees who left under Trevor's regime returned to the company in improved positions, their talents finally recognized and rewarded. The ripple effects spread beyond Westfield's walls. Two competing companies implement similar reforms after losing talent to Westfield's increasingly attractive culture. Industry publications feature case studies of the company's transformation, highlighting both moral and business benefits of authentic inclusion. At an industry conference, Nicholas participates in a panel discussion titled Transparent Accountability: The Business Case for Inclusive Leadership. Executives from across the sector fill the room, many taking notes as Nicholas shares specific policies and their measurable results. Our productivity has increased 17%, he explains to the attentive audience. Retention improved by 23%. These aren't soft metrics, they translate directly to profitability. The company's stock rises 15% as talent acquisition improves and innovation accelerates. Analysts attribute the growth directly to cultural reforms that unleashed previously suppressed potential throughout the organization. In Richard's CEO office, father and son review quarterly results with satisfaction. The board is finally convinced, Richard notes. The numbers made believers out of even the most skeptical members. Nicholas nods. Data helps, but the real difference is in the energy. You can feel it walking through departments now. Richard studies his son thoughtfully. You could have handled this privately, taken over the department without the undercover work, implemented the same changes. Then nothing would have really changed, Nicholas responds. Trevor would have been removed, but the system that protected him would remain. Real change happens when problems can't hide in the shadows. Richard smiles with unmistakable pride. You'll make a better CEO than I ever was. The marketing department now leads the company in both productivity and innovation, with the lowest turnover across all divisions. Morning meetings buzz with energy as team members from diverse backgrounds contribute ideas without fear of theft or dismissal. Projects progress efficiently without the artificial hierarchies that previously stifled creativity. Most telling is a simple moment. Aisha, now marketing director, presenting a bold campaign concept to the executive team. The room falls silent when she finishes, not with dismissal, but with appreciation for excellence. 1 year after confronting Trevor, Nicholas faces a decision that will define not just his career, but his legacy. 1 year after Trevor Matthews' removal, Westfield Industries holds its annual company meeting in the expansive central atrium. Nearly 800 employees gather in concentric circles around a simple podium. The space hums with anticipation rather than the dutiful obligation that characterized previous years' gatherings. Nicholas stands among the crowd rather than on the executive platform, conversing easily with employees from various departments. The changes in company culture manifest in everything from the diverse leadership team now visible on stage to the relaxed confidence with which staff approach executives with questions and ideas. Richard Westfield opens the proceedings with brief remarks before introducing his son. Nicholas steps onto the platform, his presence now commanding respect earned through action rather than inherited authority. 1 year ago, I experienced Westfield's culture from a perspective most executives never see, Nicholas begins. That experience transformed not just my understanding of our company, but my vision for what corporate culture should be. The presentation screen behind him displays the remarkable metrics of their transformation. Employee satisfaction scores doubled, innovation submissions increased threefold, market share growth outpacing competitors by significant margins. Today, I'm announcing a new initiative, Nicholas continues, his voice strong and clear. The Know Your Place program. A ripple of reaction passes through the audience at the loaded phrase, faces registering surprise and curiosity. For too long, these words have been used to limit potential and enforce hierarchy, Nicholas acknowledges. Today, we reclaim them. To know your place means understanding your value. It means recognizing the unique perspective you bring. It means standing in your truth. The screen transitions to details of the new program: comprehensive mentorship opportunities, leadership training, and advancement pathways specifically designed for employees from underrepresented groups. The initiative will pair promising talent with executive sponsors, creating relationships that transcend traditional corporate boundaries. This isn't about preferential treatment, Nicholas clarifies. It's about dismantling the invisible barriers that have prevented true meritocracy. It's about ensuring everyone's place in this company is determined by their contribution, not their conformity. From her position near the front, Aisha nods in approval. As marketing director, she's already implemented similar principles within her team, creating one of the most innovative departments in the company. Nicholas concludes with reflective sincerity. A year ago, I was told to know my place. It was meant to diminish me, to remind me of arbitrary boundaries. But here's what I've learned. Your place is not determined by others' limitations. Your place is where your talent, passion, and integrity lead you. The company rises in a standing ovation that continues long after Nicholas steps away from the microphone. Later that week, Nicholas speaks at a local university's business ethics symposium. After his presentation, a student approaches with the question many have wondered, but few have directly asked. Was the undercover approach really necessary? Couldn't you have made the same changes as an executive? Nicholas considers the question thoughtfully. Systemic problems require systemic solutions. Power often conceals its true nature from those who hold it. Sometimes the only way to see the truth is to change your perspective. Across town, Trevor Matthews sits alone in his home office. His new position at a much smaller company carries a fraction of his former authority and compensation. On his computer screen plays a business news segment featuring Nicholas discussing Westfield's transformation and industry-leading practices. Trevor studies his former subordinate's confident demeanor with complex emotions crossing his face. After a moment, he turns off the monitor, the reflection in the darkened screen showing a man confronting the consequences of his choices. In Richard's office at Westfield headquarters, the CEO nameplate has been modified to include both Westfield and Turner. Nicholas examines it with quiet satisfaction as he joins his father for their weekly strategy meeting. On his desk sits a small engraved plaque, a gift from the marketing team. Your place is where you choose to stand. If you've enjoyed this story of justice and transformation, make sure you're part of our Beat Stories community. Hit that subscribe button right now to never miss our weekly episodes of workplace justice and powerful comebacks. And if this story resonated with you, smash that like button to help more people discover these important lessons. At Beat Stories, we're building the largest community of justice seekers online. Join us by subscribing today.
You've seen the story. Now what will you do with it? At Beat Stories, we believe reflection is good, but action is better. Subscribe, share, speak, because awareness is only the first step.